Good morning, everybody, and welcome. My name is William O'Connor. I'm Director of Research at NSMNSS Social Research, and together with our partners, the Oxford Internet Institute and SAGE, we want to welcome you to this absolutely great day and year, hopefully, exploring new social media. So I'm just going to say a few words to kick us off. And say a little bit about how this all came about, I guess. I think probably at NSMNSS Social Research, as you can see from what we say over here, we're quite passionate about social research and quite passionate about producing social research which can make a difference to people's lives. And part of that is about trying to find the best method to explore everyday life of individuals in the UK, primarily in the UK. And so for the past couple of years, we've been sort of having an internal dialogue about what does this new social media mean for what we do? We have a reputation as quite a traditional survey and qualitative research organisation. Does it actually have any significance for us at all? And the conclusion that we came to very quickly was, of course it does. And when we saw the advert for these networks, these NCRM networks go around, it was obvious that this was the question that we should move forward with, and our partners quickly came on board, and I think we should say right up front, at the very start of the network, thank you so much to the NCRM, who, without their foresight and sharing that this was the important question for this network to address, and to be perfectly honest, the money that they coughed up in order to allow us all to be here, we wouldn't be here, so thank you for that. And I think this is probably more than just an opportunity for people to get together with colleagues across the social science arena or social research community. We are actually hoping to address one of the questions in social science at the moment, which is, what is the role of new social media in what we do? Really an extension of the questions we've been asking ourselves internally in NSMNSS Social Research. And it's important that we do, I think. Social media is everywhere. I mean, it's really interesting. We were joking earlier that I wonder what people did to conferences before people had Twitter, because everybody arrived and suddenly started nesting down to tweet or blog, perhaps, or maybe they were just emailing people. Who knows? But it's certainly quite interesting to see at public events how things change. But two other examples, which I think I'll use, two little stories really. One is, I may not look like it, but a bit of a Eurovision fanatic. And what was interesting on Saturday night was really watching what people were saying about the Eurovision online was actually more interesting than watching the Eurovision. And, you know, if you're trying to really understand whether the Eurovision is some sort of fantastic spectacle or just some huge fiasco, there was definitely evidence which was coming through from what people were saying. And I guess if you're looking at how do you really understand the phenomenon that is the Eurovision, then you really do want to look at the online manifestation of that as well as the offline. So that's one example. Another example much closer to home, actually, so to sort of roll on about 30 hours. We're now sort of some way Monday morning, about 3:30 in the morning. And actually you can hear one now. You can hear a police siren now. I was lying in my bed and I could hear an air raid siren. And I was thinking, that's an air raid siren. Try and go back to sleep. Half an hour later, that's still an air raid siren. I wonder if I should be doing something. There's an air raid siren. So I go online, nothing on BBC News. Then I go on Twitter. And there are all these people talking to each other saying, can anybody hear an air raid siren? Can anybody in East London hear an air raid siren? This goes on and on. Of course, I can't sleep because the air raid siren is still going, and I'm thinking, are we going to die? And they've got missiles on the top of the building down the road, and maybe this is somehow I'm supposed to know something. And all these people are asking these same questions of each other. And of course, then you have conspiracy theorists coming in and saying, oh my God, City Airport is on fire, which of course it wasn't. And in the end, it was a factory that had gone on fire. But it was really interesting to see how the conversation evolved. There was no real offline phenomenon. There weren't people sitting around having a discussion. There was quite a lot of people worried, quite a lot of people making mischief. but it was definitely something that we, as social scientists, if we're really going to try and understand the social world, then this seems like something we ought to be investigating and building into our studies. So we've been doing that at NatSen Social Research, as I've said. We've had some early successes, I think. One of our groundbreaking studies looking at people's motivation to take part in last year's riots really used social media to try and understand what young people were thinking and talking about at the time. We've done other evaluation studies as well. But it's not just about sort of looking and analysing Twitter feed or other kinds of social media. It's also about using social media to really enhance our offline studies, so recruiting people into studies, keeping them engaged. It's using social media to actually conduct research studies through things like online communities, but also, and I think probably the holy grail for all social scientists in these days, really trying to use social media to maximize the reach and impact of our research studies. So really trying to get it out there so that people read or hear and understand and hopefully make decisions using some of the research that we produce. So we're not alone in doing this. There are lots of people doing that. And I think probably in the market research world, people have been having these conversations for much longer. And what's been missing for us, I think, is an opportunity to really share our ideas with other people, to really try and learn what are other people doing, what are the sorts of techniques that they're using to build new social media into social science methodology and practice. What can we learn from them? And maybe they can learn something from us. And there are really some important questions, I think. I said that we're probably a reputation for being a real traditional survey research organization. And of course, the criticism that comes internally for us is, well, could you ever count it? That's definitely a question that I want to hear more about. But actually, it's not just about counting. It's also about what are the diverse array of tools that you can use, and what are the ethics of it? I mean, is there an ethical dimension? You see a lot of market research that use social media techniques, and I'm not sure that they've really considered the ethical dimensions of it. ISOMAR have done some really interesting work on that, and it'd be interesting to see how social scientists view that work. So it's going to be really exciting. Thank you all for coming. I'm going to hand you over to Gareth, who's going to say much more about the year and the event today. Thanks.
Thanks, William. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Gareth Morrell. I am a research director at NatSen, and I'm one of the co-leads from NatSen organising the network. I first sort of got involved in thinking about social media and some of the things that William was talking about at NatSen. So perhaps foolishly suggested we should have a new product development group on thinking about how we use social media tools in our research studies. And across the last year, one of the things that's happened is that we've used it in the riot study, in the National Citizen Service evaluation, and others. And this really is a step even further with that development of that work and working with partners Sage and Oxford. So it's really great that so many of you are here and that we're cutting across disciplines and sectors. I know we've got people from market research here as well, which is great. William's just given us a broad context, I guess, of the rationale for the network. I'm going to talk a bit more specifically about the objectives that we hope to achieve across the next year and some of the functions of the network and some of the ways in which it will work. So these are the details of the network which you will be familiar with. Methodological Innovation Network, funded by NCRM, and obviously we're starting today and will culminate this time next year with a closing event which we hope to come out with some real tangible outputs. Underpinning all of this, I guess, there are four sort of guiding principles that are in the corner there, and I think what we're really trying to do is provide a platform for innovation, collaboration, inspiration, and hopefully lead to some really fresh thinking on this issue. So while it's great to have guiding principles, without more concrete aims, then they're really just a nice to have. So we do have some very concrete aims that we want to achieve throughout the next year. I think underpinning all of it is this idea of us being a community of practice, on and offline. As William said, there's so much going on, and in terms of developing methods in this area. It is quite fragmented. It is a bit all over the place. Perhaps even people who are experts in the field don't know necessarily what's going on in other disciplines, and that's unsurprising given how new a methodological area it is. But this is a real opportunity to merge those strands of thought. And we're really looking to forge those links across different disciplines. And I think one of the things we've tried to do is really embody the spirit of the method that we're studying by using lots of different platforms in terms of blogs, Twitter, forums, live streaming of events, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we move on. And obviously we want all of this to be a catalyst for debate about some of the specific methodological or technical or issues around techniques that we might use, but also the broader questions that William mentioned around ethics, quality. And hopefully thinking all this through will enable us to coherently address some of those key challenges that people working with social media and research face. We all want to harness the power that social media has, but there are some difficulties, there are some tensions, there are some things that we need to think through. And as I said, all this sharing of different approaches, we want to come out with some tangible outputs, some good practice guides, some learning workshops, some papers from these seminars, and more traditional outputs, journal articles, and we're very keen to look at the potential for a journal special issue at the end of the year, and we really want to engage you in that process in terms of thinking through what it is we get out of this network. So finally, sort of the how. So okay, that's what we want to do. How are we going to do it? And I think how are we going to use the tools that a network like this enables you to have in order to achieve these aims? And that really is the collaborative part of the project. And we want to be guided by you, by the members, by experts in exactly how we do this. Some of the tools we do have, though, hopefully some of you will have had a look at what we do have online. The first thing there is our homepage, which effectively acts as a portal, a gateway into a number of the other platforms that I've mentioned. And I do recommend you all take a look at that at some point today. We'll have some laptops available for that. We're also really grateful to Sage for enabling us to use their MethodSpace area. I'm not sure if any of you are already members of MethodSpace, but it gives us the opportunity to have a number of concurrent forums, member profiles, member messaging, or, like any online network and community. And also it gives us the opportunity to be based within a broader methodological community. We have a Twitter account. People will be tweeting today and beyond, and recommend that you do also. We have a blog. There is some content on the blog today which leads into some of the key speakers' contributions to today. And we'll also have a YouTube channel. We are live streaming, apparently, and we will be putting up the videos on a YouTube channel for all the members of the network who aren't able to make it. And we do have members from across the globe, so it is really important that we're able to do that. So it's a multi-stranded approach. The idea is to be as open and accessible as possible so that everyone can get involved. There are some face-to-face events. They do still exist, and this clearly you can see is one of them. And they kind of punctuate that broader online structure throughout the year. So this is the first launch event, and then there will be 4 knowledge exchange seminars where we look in a bit more detail and dig a bit deeper on some of the issues that we raised today, and we'll be working with you to co-create the agenda for those seminars. Finally, the point on there about online seminars, we'll be using Blackboard to come up with some online seminars and learning workshops, and we'll facilitate those, but we, again, really interested to hear what you might want to contribute to those types of events. So, finally, the crucial bit. While we've come up with how the network might work, what it looks like, we're still keen to get feedback on that and how it might work better. But I guess fundamentally, any network is only as good as its members' contributions, and we're really keen to use your engagement, your enthusiasm for the subject, and obviously your expertise in the issues to make this a success. So get involved, sign up, take ownership of the various areas of the network that we have, and we really hope that you'll get a lot from it, as well as us. It's a real key aim for NatSen, for our partners, and for NCRN that it's useful more broadly than the partners involved in the network. Just a couple of things to say about today and how that will work. As I mentioned, we've got a couple of laptops over there for people who aren't constantly glued to their smartphone to use. If you are glued to your smartphone, use that. Feel free to tweet about the day. We have Katie over there from Sage. The rest of the team, Andy, put your hand up there, from NatSen, who's done great work on the website, and Jerome, the same. And Candy is at the back there. And we also have Grant Blank from Oxford Internet Institute. If you have any questions on how the day will work, on how the network will work, grab one of them rather than me.